How did this start? In 2008, I believe, I took a group of students to Washington, D.C. Over spring break as part of a Mellon undergraduate research grant to research sites of memory. And we visited the National Security Archive. Carlos Osorio is the Southern Cone specialist at the National Security Archives. Met with Carlos, who was so impressed with our students that he said, I love interns. If you ever have, interns that you'd like to send my way, I'd love to have them. And I said, oh, yes, we'd be very interested in that. We started brainstorming about what it could look like, what a collaboration could look like. I brought Betsy Conifal in because as a historian, somebody who teaches the history of state violence in Latin America, she has a great deal of expertise in archives and historical research. I'm an expert on issues of representation, cultural studies. And so it was really through the partnership that I felt comfortable to explore this new terrain. We agreed that we could come up with a project that would benefit the National Security Archive as well as William and Mary teaching interests and my own sort of interests in post-dictatorship Argentina. So my own research was part of why I was so interested in doing this. So as I said, it started with an independent study. So one student, one faculty member, an expert on state violence, and one professional working in the field in an NGO. The next semester, I taught a course with 10 students and Carlos Osorio. So we had a practitioner in DC. We had 10 students in the classroom with me here at William and Mary. And we had to figure out very quickly what this was going to turn into. What were we going to research? What was our joint project going to be? What were the outcomes going to be? And we turned that semester's work into researching one particular story. And that is a story of Jacobo Timerman, who was a very well-known journalist who was detained and disappeared for a while and then released. So we ended up producing briefing books, a briefing book that was published at the National Security Archive in DC, a briefing book that was published through the Comisión Provincial por la Memoria in Argentina, and compiling a chronology that would help researchers, scholars, the public understand the context of those documents that we were publishing as parts of briefing books, so the history. So students did all of that work. I actually see this as a community of practice between more than two people, because the community of practice wouldn't work without the student participation. And we came together every week to figure out how to tell the story. And we also brought in students who were studying abroad in Argentina, interning in that archive to help them construct their equivalent briefing book, which is something they had never done before, so that we could publish all of these things together at the same time. I mean, from my perspective, it's my own pedagogical philosophy that I learn more, I benefit more by including other people's perspectives. Particularly with this kind of work, these students are incredibly intelligent, dedicated, thorough, serious. They really are up to the expectations I would have for a peer researcher. I think it would do them a disservice to also not treat them in that way. I think it would do the project a disservice. They're much more likely to get something out of the experience if they have ownership over it. You have to be able to think outside the box and think about and say yes to something that where the results aren't necessarily obvious. But sort of like a door opens or a window opens and say, oh, well, what would happen if I walk through, right? You have to have, I think, willing partners, and you have to have good juju with those partners. I mean, that matters. You're gonna be working, and your working styles and your objectives and your values, the way you approach the enterprise, have to be well matched.